great.
Very nice.
Wonderful. Yeah.
Well, it's great because I read what you put on Kierkegaard. You know, your enthusiasm is infectious. It's great. And here's the old Grundtvigian.
Yeah, the Grundtvigian. We're going to sing a Grundtvig hymn.
Oh, good.
Oh, yes. Yes, we'll have a Grundtvig hymn.
Yeah.
For Ellen. For Ellen.
Oh, you live out there? Oh, well, North Coleman. I never lived there, you know, but I've been there. Yeah. It's really, it is wonderful. It's more so your parents feel like I'm in good company. Your very complimentary. Yeah, okay.
The sculpture. Would you walk us through some of your processes as we look at this sculpture? Could you do that?
The technical process?
Yeah.
Of actually creating.
I'm more interested in your inspiration and the way your mind worked through it. But yeah, that'd be fine. I know you like the dappled or the dimpled.
Yes, I like. It's part of my style to have it be a little less than perfectly finished. It does a number of things. One, it allows the light to bounce around a little bit differently, and over time, with the changes in light in this room, and because we have so much daylight coming in both directions, I know that the light is going to change over the sculpture with the seasons, not just with the time of day and each day, but as the seasons change and the angle of the light changes coming into this room, you're going to see ever so slightly different modulations on the surface, which hopefully people will be able to catch and to see slightly different emotional expressions.
Wow.
Because when I did the piece, I literally had it in my space, in my room, where I have natural daylight, and I kept working on it through 2 full years of light changes, so that I could try to capture as much depth of emotion as could possibly be put into a piece of bronze that was just going to be fixed.
Wow, that's wonderful to hear you talk about that. Well, the light just changed right now on us here as I put the camera on.
So yes, come back every day for many days, and I hope you will find and see what I mean. I hope you'll see that just, a little bit of difference in the eyes, and a little bit of difference in the way the light moves across the mouth. And, sometimes he'd be so depressed, and sometimes that little, people call it smirk, sometimes that little smirk would be miserable. And yet if you stare at it and then let the light pass over it, there are going to be other times when it feels like it's merely a smile. Because I think he went so much back and forth between the depths of misery and the depths of joy in his thinking, as he would find things that intrigued him and find, decide maybe this puzzle is solved and move on to another puzzle, recognizing that although the church supposedly had hard and fast and fixed rules about everything, he knew that some of those rules collided. And he talked about that collision and how do we as mere mortals deal with the collisions of sacrosanct rules. And I think that was part of what drove him day to day to try to puzzle that. And the knowledge that he came from a very comfortable, respectful, and he did have a good life. He did observe that some people didn't.
What's a little bit about your background and as an artist?
Well, I majored in fine art for my undergraduate degree at State University of New York in Binghamton, Harper College. Since I was a child, my parents noticed and then encouraged my artistic interests, and I'm very grateful to my mom and dad for that. but I always paralleled my art life with the other things I've done in life. So I've had an opportunity to formally study art, and also informally study life that informs art.
How'd you get to Seattle?
Moved from the East Coast a few years after my mom and dad did. My mother was hired into Boeing. She came here to work in the 1960s, and I came in the late 60s. She just glowed about what a wonderful place this was, and that it didn't snow in the winter and you didn't have to shovel it. Or at least it rarely snowed in the winter. So. And we came from upstate New York, which was very snowy in the winter.
Yeah.
So I don't know, even if I guess I can't change the light that easily. It will slowly and in meaningful ways change. Even the shadow over the eyes, which is so special the way Ron has it lit right now. But yet
Did you help him with the lighting?
Oh, we talked about it. He actually did it himself, but we talked about what it would do and how it would work.
And you found the glasses too?
Oh, thank you. Yes, I did. That was part of the technical adventure, finding glasses that would fit. And I really felt like to make it be what it needed to be, I think in some ways for sure he was wealthy enough to have glasses.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Right.
He did wear them. And I think, as many of us do, there were moments in his psyche when he kind of pulled back for a second and would hide behind the glasses. And then other moments when they were definitely his vision. And they change the way the light hits the face. When you look through glass, it just changes things. It's just like
Thank you very much for coming. Just give you a couple little words of advice about the reception. There are things here that are free, and there are things that are not free. And we invite you to participate in both of them. So the food is free. The commemorative editions of the Lutheran Forum on our event in Kierkegaard's Bicentennial are free. The coffee mugs are free unless you have druthers and would like to help defray the cost. But the broadsheets of Dana Joy's poem are not. They cost $25 each. There's about 50 of them there. And that money will all go to the support of the West Salem Helpline to help our neighbors in need who need rent assistance and utilities assistance. And then there is my book that's available, and that's for $25, and I'd be happy to sign it for you. I wanted to say a couple brief things about Kierkegaard, why he's important to me. There's a tribute to him in the book that I would like to read. It's just 2 pages long. I wrote it about 10 years ago, and I still think it's true. Kierkegaard was raised a Lutheran in Copenhagen, Denmark. He was highly educated at the university and developed a love for words and ratiocination, the thorough needing of reflection, he called it. In his book, Stages on Life Way, he praises the Danish language, saying that it is not without expression for the great, the crucial, the eminent, yet has a lovely, a winsome, a genial partiality for intermediate thoughts and subordinate ideas and adjectives, and the small talk of moods, and the humming of transitions, and the cordiality of inflections, and the secret exuberance of concealed well-being. These words also reveal his manner of thinking and writing. But for all his learning and writing, nearly 30 books and thousands of pages of journal entries, his heart was with the ordinary fellow. Even though he was shy, he walked the streets of Copenhagen, chatting with strangers, keeping the night hours for his secluded reading and writing. This was not because of any interest in politics, but for the, quote, disjunctions of good and evil, right and wrong, honesty and dishonesty, of which the common man had an unshakable and instinctive grasp, quite apart from any reflection, unquote. Kierkegaard loved this instinct because he wanted to put a similar intensity back into Christianity, when being a Christian in his day had become a banality, he says. So he took Matthew 7 to heart, reading it primitively for character building, that Christianity is difficult and few, he says, participate in it aright. Christian faith does not come from fine thinking, but from acting according to the orders of Christ. And Jesus said we should strive to follow his narrow way. This way opposes the easy life wherein the gorgeous, poisonous flower of excuses blooms, for all other ways are wrong roads. They do not work against ourselves and are mutually enchanting defraudation of love, as Christ's true way does. So woe, woe to the Christian church when it craves being victorious in the world, for then the way to life is no longer narrow and true. For it is not a sign that you are on the right way when things are going easily for you. Thank God then for Kierkegaard and learn from him. Thank God for Howard and Edna Hong, who have translated his books into English, as well as those who have translated them into German, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Dutch, Italian, Swedish, Norwegian, Chinese, Japanese, Korean, Hungarian, Polish, Romanian, Bulgarian, Croatian, Russian, Ukrainian, Czech, Hebrew, Greek, and Turkish. Truly the world needs to hear from Kierkegaard that Christianity alone is able to give a solution to all the existential problems. So that's my tribute to him. But you might say, why would I care about trying to live a Christian life based on his view? And so I write at the end of the book, my postscript, I call him my father in the faith. He says, life must be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. This Christian author, this spiritual advisor to the solitary, as he calls himself, has become my father in the faith. As I look back over the last few decades of studying his life and writings, just as Martin Luther once said of St. Augustine, that his keen judgment was a blessing to him, so Kierkegaard's judgments have been the same for me. In his journal, Kierkegaard wrote that if it ever were to be published, its title should be The Book of the Judge. And his fundamental judgment is, Christianity has had all of its turbulence and difficulty ripped away from it. For properly understood, Christianity is nothing but mildness in severity. Just as in the Danish original, mildhed or mildness rhymes with stenhed or severity, so in our faith and practice, they belong tightly linked together. So what God has joined together, we should not put asunder. But in order to redress the situation, severity has to be the element emphasized, since it is the dialectical factor that thickens the soup, so to speak, creating the most intense agony possible. And Kierkegaard, for sure, has distinguished himself in agonizing his readers. Therefore, he says in his journals that his task is to apply a corrective to the established order, not to introduce something new, that all he wants is to starve the life out of all the illusions in which Christendom has run aground, that it is a delusion to suppose that if God does not intervene with punishment, then one is in excellent standing with him, that before God we are less than nothing, and that the human race is not progressing except in knavish trickery. Good night, Oli! As Kierkegaard would say, surely no one could think these are warm and fuzzy affirmations. And so I end, while it was my parents, by the grace of God who made me a Christian, through the waters of holy baptism, when I was but 2 months old, it has been the version of Lutheranism written down on Kierkegaard's many pages that has kept me one. All these many years later, it has kept me in the household of God. Deo gratias. So there it is. There it is. Now, does everybody know Rita? Rita, stand up. Thank you, Rita. Stuart is the model for this statue. Stuart is Rita and John's son. Stuart, thank you for indulging us. You're a good sport. You're a good sport. And I want to remind you about the guest book. I'd like you all to write in it, write your comments at your leisure, but not now. Now I want you to enjoy, with me, the Nordiska Dancers. Thank you for coming.
Here at the UW, that's my favorite.
Pretty good. Hey, Bob. Well, Connie and I just have one coffee.
Kierkegaard said, "What a relief to read Luther." I just think that's great. And he said, Luther is the only guy whose life is better than his sermons. He said most guys, their sermons are better than their life because they're phony. But Luther is actually better in his life than he is his sermons. Because Kierkegaard thought that Luther had a tendency to kind of soft pedal Christianity sometimes. But he said his life is always unnerving. And he said, what's unnerving about Luther? He says, I'm just reading this recently again. He says, it's not that he attacked the Pope. He said, that'll be forgotten. It's not that he wrote such great books. People will quit reading them. I think Kierkegaard would be shocked today that we're still translating Luther's works. And there's new stuff being translated now for the 500th anniversary in 2017. They're finished. There are 20 more volumes for the American edition. So and they have a team of 90 international scholars. I mean, it's a huge project. All these people sweating over Luther still today. David says they won't hit the Pope and they won't read his stuff anymore. But it's the fact he married a nun. That was the great thing Luther did.
So 3 books, if you're going to have every Lutheran read 3 books, either on, what would they be?
So every Lutheran read 3 books.
Yeah, I'm talking about your guys now, your people. You're the guys.
Yeah,
so
my guys.
read